Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in again this week. It's week number 2 of my ins and outs of the off season. Now, let's go ahead and get started again with the moves that happened this week. First things first, we'll deal with the ones that had to deal with arbitration. So we're gonna have Mike Moustakas and the Royals avoid arbitration with a 2-year deal. Moustakas, third baseman for them. He last year actually had a really solid year, so it's a great thing for the Royals to keep him having. Hopefully, he can keep up his success. Good left-handed hitter with power. The joke with him was back when 2 years ago when they made the first playoff run before his last year winning the World Series. They said he was the most dangerous nine-hole hitter in the league. So that was pretty funny about him. But good job by the Royals to keep him on the team. Also, we have Evan Gattis with a 1-year deal plus a club option for 2017 with the Astros. So I'm assuming when 2017 hits, unless he has a really bad year and something happens, I'm assuming the Astros will eventually end up signing him to a pretty big contract because this last year he was probably one of their best hitter with average RBIs on base and power, not just average wise like Altuve, but he's also one of the best as well. Also DJ LeMahieu and the Rockies with the 2-year deal. So LeMahieu had his first kind of I would say breakout year. All-Star, he actually became the starter because of injury to D Gordon, but still he earned it. And I'm assuming if he has 2 more solid years, once again another person that can get another big signing with the team and a contract there. Now, a trade that happened this week is going to be Chris Davis, traded to Oakland from Milwaukee for Bubba Derby and Jacob Nottingham. Now, the Bubba Derby and Jacob Nottingham are both minor leaguers, so they'll be in the minor league system for the Brewers. I believe they both are going to be at the spring training though. But Chris Davis is the main bigger person in this huge this trade for Oakland. He's an outfielder, left-handed hitter. He's 20 years old. He had 27 home runs last year, 17 of them being in the second half, which was like I think top 10 for all of Major League Baseball with home runs in the second half. So he has power for an outfielder, which is exactly what Oakland needs. And another thing to prove his power is he's had 20 plus home runs in the last 2 years. So his power is coming out, and he's playing outfield, starting all the games. He's the outfielder starter with 20 plus home runs last 2 years, which is the power that he has proven to be successful. Now let's go ahead and get into, like I said last week, I'm gonna be covering what I think are the bigger trades or signings of this off season, the bigger names that caught all the attention. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with it. I'm gonna start with the pitchers. So first one here is gonna be David Price, 30-year-old, signed a 7-year, $217 million deal with the Boston Red Sox. Now, it's a lot of money, but he has proven that he deserves a lot of money, especially with him being a left-handed pitcher. And Boston, with this being David Ortiz's last year, he has announced that he's going to retire after this last season. The Red Sox are not afraid to go out and spend some money to help send David Ortiz off with a ring. Now, for David Price, even though he's proven to be a very successful pitcher, his issue has these last few years have been like teams that aren't in the running use him for trade to get money or younger players. So this last year he got traded from Detroit to Toronto, as Toronto was looking to build up their pitching staff for the postseason run. And the year before that, he was traded from Tampa Bay to Detroit for Detroit to have their postseason run. So, I mean, other than that, but it's not because he hasn't been pitching well. It's just teams go out and they want him, and he's been the person that the teams are willing to give up. And last year he ended up being 18-5 with a 2.45 ERA, which is, I mean, that's a great record, and he still got traded. Um, he has only had one losing record season, all his career. So if he lasts his whole 7 years in Boston, he'll be 37. Each player has their own thought of when to retire, but I'd say if he's happy with it, he might retire after the 7 years with Boston. I don't know. But a great signing for Boston to help out with their younger, kind of their staff's kind of younger, and just another left-handed pitcher to be into their rotation. As like I said, it's gonna the American League East now with Toronto proven to be a powerhouse. It's been and Baltimore too. The AL East is all um, about being a powerhouse, and Boston's trying to prove it that they can still be there with that signing there. Next one's gonna be Zach Greinke. This is probably one of the biggest ones out of everybody, only mainly because of how great he had pitched the last year. Um, he was 19-3 with a 1.66 ERA, which was the lowest in 20 years by any starting pitcher. So, and amazingly, he finished second in Cy Young Award voting in the National League. But that's probably why he's one of the biggest signings. Also, since people kind of thought he might just get a bigger contract in LA, but he actually signed a 6-year deal worth 206.5 million with the Arizona Diamondbacks, which is a rival to the Dodgers. So that's why it's also another big key right there. So he's been with the Dodgers the past 3 years, and he has a 51-15 record the last 3 years of the Dodgers. So that's a very impressive win to loss ratio. Um, he wasn't too successful in Kansas City. I mean, he had great pitching there. He was a nice young star with, you know, great power in his arm, great stuff. A lot of movement on his pitches. Didn't have too much success as he has had in the past 3 years, but he still put up some good numbers in Kansas City, which is why he got noticed by the Dodgers eventually after he went through a couple more organizations. But this is a definitely huge signing for the Diamondbacks. I'll get onto that a little bit later, why it's so huge for them as well. But next one moving on here is going to be Johnny Cueto. He is 30 years old, signed a 6-year, $130 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. Um, he's been with Cincinnati his whole career, except for last year when he got traded to Kansas City to help with their postseason push, and actually won a ring. So he made it obvious that he didn't mind being traded, and Kansas City he actually liked going there because, as I said, he got the ring, so he couldn't be more happier than that. Last year, although wasn't his best year, he was 11-13 with a 3.44 ERA. I mean, not the lowest ERA, but not the highest either. Just didn't get the run support with Cincinnati early in the year, and then Kansas City kind of let his ERA go up. He was 7-6 before he got traded to Kansas City with a 2.62 ERA, so his ERA went up almost a full point, and he ended up losing more than winning. So other than that, he's had pretty great stuff in Cincinnati. He's one of the bigger talked about names, as well as the next one I'll talk about too. Even though he hasn't had the best numbers, he's still that pitcher that people want to have on their staff. Although he did have a 20-9 season in 2014, so he does have good win-loss record on his resume. The next one is Jeff Samardzija. the Shark, as people like to call him, which is kind of funny because he is now in the Bay with the Giants. 31 years old. He signed a 5-year, $90 million deal. He was with Chicago White Sox last year. He came up with the Cubs though, which is kind of funny that he was with the White Sox last year as the Cubs were trying to get him as well. Um, but same thing for him. He last year he was 11-13 with a 4.96 ERA, so his ERA was even higher, and the White Sox didn't have that well of a year either, so he didn't get so much run support, which is why his record was how it was. Although he hasn't really had great win to loss ratio his whole career. But you know, the him coming up with the Cubs during the years that the Cubs didn't have too much of a great offense, um, and going to Oakland, but then coming out getting but then with the White Sox last year. But I think the reason why the Giants went after him was because if you can put him with a great an offense that scores consistently, I would say. The Giants are pretty good at that, putting up runs, and also Buster Posey being his catcher. If he does stay catching, although you know people are trying to say get him to first base, but that's a whole different situation. But I mean, Buster Posey is one of the best in the game at catcher, so I think he will help the Shark benefits, and I think Samardzija will just succeed with the Giants more than he has in the past with all the other teams. So I think for him, this is a great signing. And I actually do hope for him, although I am a kind of a D-backs fan, so I'm not, I root for the D-backs more than any other team, but I still hope that he has some success with the Giants. Next pitcher on the list here is going to be Jordan Zimmerman. He's 29 years old, signed a 5-year, $110 million deal with the Detroit Tigers. Now he's been with the Washington Nationals his whole career till this upcoming season. Now that he's in Detroit, right-handed pitcher, power arm, great stuff. I mean, he's really been the rock for the team uh, when Steven Strasburg has kind of gone through injuries these last couple of years. So he's proven to earn the money that he's getting paid with Detroit. He was 13-10 last year. Not the best record you would say. 3.66 ERA. But he's had double-digit wins in the last 4 years with the Nationals. Now the Nationals haven't been now the last 2 years, the Nationals have proven to be a pretty much contender almost every year. But before then, they weren't proving themselves contenders. So for him to have double digits in the 2 years before these last 2 years is a great thing for him to have accomplished. And with Detroit's lineup the way it is, I mean, it's looking pretty scary now. It's got a lot of power in there, a lot of I would say kind of veterans now who know what they're doing. And you also have Justin Verlander to be there with Zimmerman. He's a little bit older now too to kind of help out Zimmerman, who's not really considered young either. So I think that's a plus for the Detroit, and we'll see how Zimmerman pitches there. It's a different atmosphere than Washington, obviously. So we'll see how he goes in there and attacks it. Next one's going to be Mike Leake. Now he's the youngest one out of the pitchers right here I'm talking to you about, 28 years old. He signed a 5-year, $80 million deal with St. Louis Cardinals. Now, he also, like Cueto, was with Cincinnati his whole career until last year when he got traded to San Francisco to help them with their offseason push. So Cincinnati was taking advantage of people looking for some pitching as they knew they weren't going to make it in the postseason to get themselves some players for the future. Um, Now, last year, he was 11-10 with a 3.88 ERA. He's a big time seeker ball pitcher. It's all he's about. He's all about getting the ground balls, which which will help him fit in with St. Louis as Adam Wainwright is the same way. And now for him, in his 6 seasons, he's only had two with losing records. So he's proven to get himself the wins and get himself the win the better win to loss ratio over the years. And like I said, with St. Louis, and they're always looking for a great pitching staff, so that shows you that they think Mike Leake can go there and be very successful. And I always think, like, all right, it's always been proven too, is the Cardinals always find a way to, make themselves one of the best in the league every time. So I don't see them having any troubles with Mike Leake being in the rotation at all. Now, quick little mention. Now we're moving into the position skill players. One person that kind of caught my attention, who's still actually a free agent out there, is Dexter Fowler. He's 29 years old. He actually rejected a 1-year offer by the Cubs for 15.8 million. So I don't know if he's either looking for more money or he's looking for more years in a contract. But with pitchers and catchers reporting today for spring training, it's getting kind of close. Then he's still not with the team. So he's a switch hitter, speedy. He's a speedster, center fielder. Which if he doesn't sign with the Cubs are going to be missing that center fielder there. So, but from what I've heard so far, recently, from what I've heard, the Orioles are interested in signing him for their outfield addition there. He had a 250 batting average, was actually, for him being a speedster, 17 home runs is very impressive with 46 RBIs last year. So great power numbers, I would say. I'd like his average to get up a little bit better if you want him to be that leadoff type role. So that's something to keep yourself looking at for to see who ends up signing Dexter Fowler. It's gonna be interesting to find out who and when, since the spring training is about to be started. Next person, now we're gonna go back into people that have actually signed their deals for the position players. First one's gonna be Daniel Murphy, 30 years old, a 3-year, 37.5 million deal with the Washington Nationals. Now he's been with the Mets his whole career. Last year was kind of his breakout year, you would say. However, I don't know if his whole year was his breakout year. I mean, he had good numbers, but it was the postseason is really what got his name out there. What made it think, wow, we need him, because he tied a record for 6 straight postseason games with a home run, which is crazy to think about. I mean, he started against the Dodgers and pretty much helped propel them past the Dodgers in last year in the postseason. He homered off Cranky, Kershaw, and then moved on to other great pitches, which was just amazing for him to keep doing that. But last year, he had a 281 batting average with 14 home runs and 73 RBIs. So, I mean, he's a power left-handed batter, second baseman, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does in the Washington Stadium, as they have the scoreboards there, so it's a little bit higher wall in right field. So for a lefty, I mean, it's a lot harder to clear because it's that much more height than the wall. So we'll see how he does. I want to see if he'll be able to show that he just didn't have a decent year last year, and then he just kind of slumps off. So keep an eye on him and see if he can prove that he is that second baseman that the Nationals are looking for. Next one's going to be Ben Zobrist, 34 years old. He's also a second baseman. He signed a 4-year, $56 million deal with the Cubs. So for him, it's same kind of concept for most players. Uh, got traded from Oakland to Kansas City to help with their post season push, and just like Cueto, got himself a ring from getting traded there. But for him, he came up with the Tampa Bay Rays, played there for 9 years, then went to Oakland and now Kansas City, and now he's with the Cubs now. Switch hitter, so a person that you can have there play every time. You don't have to worry about him not being able to face lefties as a left-handed hitter. He can just flip to the other side. He had a 276 batting average with 13 home runs and 56 RBIs. Now for him, I think he proven himself to get this deal with the Cubs as he really led the charge for the Royals in the postseason. He seemed to always be getting on base and proven to be a big pickup for the Royals. So for the Cubs, everybody knows Wrigley Field is a little bit easier to hit home runs in there. So we'll see. Maybe his power numbers might go up, but I don't think he's trying to do that. I think he's just trying to keep himself healthy and that old veteran second baseman that can play into his older ages and still churn out good numbers. So next one's gonna be Matt Wieters. He's 29 years old. He only signed a 1-year deal with the Orioles for 15.8 million. Now, I don't know if I'm pretty sure that's the Orioles saying, "Hey, we don't want to give you a long-term contract if you can't stay healthy," as he has not played a full season since 2013 it would be. So he over these last 2 years, he's only played 101 games. That's not even a full season actually. So that's something that's been his issue. Um, Now he's been with Baltimore for 7 years though. He's a switch hitter as well for a catcher, which is actually pretty impressive. Not many catchers are switch hitters. But last year, for his 75 games that he played in, he was a 265 batting average with 8 home runs and 25 RBIs. Now in 2013, when he had his last full season, he was an All-Star. That was his breakout year, you would say. He's proven to be a great hitter. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy, which is actually, I would say, really hurt the Orioles when they needed him the most. So if he can stay healthy this next year and put up good numbers, I think he'll find that he'll get that extra money and extra years on his contract if he chooses to stay with the Orioles or tries to go with another team. That's all up to him though. But I think he can get it if he proves himself this year health wise. Next one on the list here for you, Justin Upton. 28 years old, still young, but has many years of experience. He's got a 6-year, $132.75 million deal with the Tigers. Now, this doesn't shock me at all that he's getting this money. I'll tell you why right now. For him, he's had 8 full seasons in the major leagues. Had his first year at the Diamondbacks. His first action was like halfway through the season. He only played 30 games. Had like 2 home runs, but in the 8 full seasons, including those 2 home runs in his ninth season of a half one, if you would say, has 190 career home runs already. He's put up amazing numbers. He has raw power. Now his batting average last year was down a lot more than what he's had. He had a 251 batting average, but had 26 home runs and 81 RBIs. RBIs is a little bit lower than he's had. Now for him, I think it's because he was in San Diego, and San Diego went out and got Will Myers, Matt Kemp, Justin Upton. They were hoping to have a great offensive season, and it didn't turn out that way for the Padres. But Justin Upton still had a great year for what from what it turned out for the Padres. Just his average was down, but I mean, with him being with Danny Martinez, you got Miguel Cabrera, those two guys, and it's just gonna help with the power for them. I mean, I think he's gonna succeed from it. Hopefully he can keep his if he keeps his batting average up, that will lead to more home runs, I would say, and even more RBIs. But it just makes the lineup even more scary for Detroit, and that was his issue in San Diego. He didn't have anybody else in that lineup to help. You know, they could pitch around Justin Upton and pitch to everybody else. So I think this trade will benefit him as they will have to pitch to him, whereas he'll probably be hitting in front of Miguel Cabrera or behind Miguel Cabrera as well. Next one on the list here for you, Alex Gordon, 32 years old, signed a 4-year, $72 million deal with the Kansas City Royals. Now, he signed it a lot later than I thought he was, so it was kind of interesting. I didn't think, at first, I was thinking he might leave Kansas City and, after winning the World Series, see I'm going somewhere else, but he never ruled Kansas City out. But I'm assuming he didn't get any good offers from any other teams, so he took the Kansas City deal. He has been with Kansas City his whole career for 9 years. He's probably one of their main leaders for the Royals, as well as Salvador Perez and say Hosmer as well. So this is a great thing for the Royals to have. It really is someone they need. He's also proven to be a great defender. He's a 4-time Gold Glover. So I mean, it's something that was definitely needed to bring back for them. He had a 271 batting average with 13 home runs and 48 RBIs. Now, like I said, definitely someone that was needed back for the Kansas City Royals to even keep themselves as the defending World Series champs. So they want to have a great year, not just to prove that they won and then have another bad year. So they've been in the World Series 2 years in a row. So I mean, everybody's goal is to make the World Series. For them, it's going to be to make it 3 years in a row. So we'll see how it goes. And I think it's a great thing for him to be back in Kansas City. All the Royals fans love him there. So next one on the list is going to be Jason Hayward. He's still really young. Another one of those young ones, 26 years old. Some people forget how young he is. 8-year, $184 million deal with the Cubs. Now, it's probably one of the longest contracts we've had signed so far in this offseason. But it's because he's also still really young, so you can afford to sign him a lot younger. Sign him for a lot longer than just like 4 years. But he was with Atlanta to St. Louis. So he was in Atlanta for 2014 and then got traded to St. Louis in 2015 for the Shelby Miller deal. Those are the two main names, and he had such a slow start, and Shelby Miller had such a great start that everybody, the uh, all the St. Louis fans were pretty upset about the trade at first. But then he started picking it up, and he finished really strong and actually proved to be a great outfielder. As his defense he's a plus defender as well. Um, so the Cubs saw that he can actually piece it together and have a great year, even if he has a slow start. He had 200. He ended up with a 293 batting average, 13 home runs, and 60 RBIs. The RBIs are so low because of how slow he started. Um, but his average is up there, almost a 300 batting average. So for a slow start, he brought it back together, and I think it's like Wrigley Field again. It's a place where you can probably have more home run numbers there, more RBIs with a young lineup that I mean, one of the scariest youngest lineups in the league for sure, with all of them having raw power as well. So him being there is just only going to add another person to the mix to be scared of in that lineup, and another person to hit more home runs and drive in more RBIs for the Cubs. Next on the list here for you is going to be Chris Davis. He's 29 years old, signed a 7-year, $161 million deal with the Baltimore Orioles. Now, his biggest reason why this is such, you would say, big risk for the Orioles is he missed the end of 2014 and started 2015 season due to drugs. So he got suspended games for violating the drug policy of the Major League Baseball. But last year, even after missing the start of the 2015 season, not too many games, but still missed some games there. He had a 262 batting average with 47 home runs and 117 RBIs. So if he doesn't have any more drug issues from now on, this is the deal that the Orioles wanted, and they were able to get it. He's had over 25 home runs in the last 4 seasons, with one of them being 53 home runs and another one being 47. So he's a raw power. he's gonna hit home runs, and he's gonna hit even more home runs. I think this next year if he plays all the games. He's Camden Yards is a great ballpark. He's a first baseman and left-handed hitter, so he's got that left-handed pull power. And his only issue is his batting average. I mean, 262 is not the lowest in the world, but it's not the highest either. You would like a little bit more average. I think more average would lead to more home runs for him. So if he can get his batting average up, it's going to be the scariest hitter in the league, I would say, with just the power alone. Um, Next on the list here for you is going to be Yoenis Cespedes, 30 years old, signed a 3-year deal worth $7 million with the Mets. So he's staying with the Mets. Only thing for him, he's been kind of like David Price, like I said earlier. He was with Boston, then got traded to Detroit. Then he was with Detroit and got traded to New York with the Mets. So his biggest thing, which is now with these 3 years, hopefully he'll stay with the Mets and not have to deal with being traded again because it's been his kryptonite, even though it hasn't ruined his numbers. It's not fun being a well-known player who keeps getting traded from team to team. Although you are getting traded to a team that is winning, but still, it's not something you want to be doing every year. So last year he 291 batting average with 35 home runs and 105 RBIs. Um, when he signed with the Mets, he was probably the best, um, postseason push signing deal that was made. He just put amazing number with the Mets and never looked back after doing it as well. His postseason wasn't as great as most people wanted, but Daniel Murphy came in and kind of made up for that, I would say. But for him, his kind of big known thing for Cespedes is going to be he was a back-to-back home run derby winner in 2013 and 2014. He didn't compete last year in 2015. He probably would have been able to win 3 in a row, maybe I would say. But he's got raw power. So it's a great signing by the Mets. If any half last then at the end of the half season was any sign of what he could do with the Mets, I think he's going to be a star the whole seasons for the 3 years he's there. So we'll see how that signing works out for the 3 years if he's able to keep up his numbers that he's put out, which he's done almost his whole career as well. So it's something I think he will benefit, and the Mets will benefit from as well. So now, kind of some bigger known trades that happened in the offseason was Aroldis Chapman got traded to the New York Yankees from the Cincinnati Reds in a 5-player deal. Now he has been said that he will be the closer for the Yankees, which I expect nothing less. He's been doing it his whole career. He's a left-hander with straight fire every time he throws the ball. He averages 100 miles per hour on his fastball. Now it's just crazy to think of. 90 feet away and the ball's coming 800 miles an hour as a hitter. Um, it, it's something that you have to step in there knowing that if he hits you, it's a 100-mile-an-hour fastball hitting you. But he's got great control though. That's the other thing. It's not like he's just throwing straight fire and it's going all over the places. No, he's able to control his pitches, which makes him even scarier, even more effective. He's had 30 saves in the last 4 years. Last year he had 33 saves with a 1.63 ERA. Now as a closer, that's more than what you want, I would say, with that ERA being so low. And he also is the fastest pitcher in the majors. So for the Yankees, this only just makes their end of their bullpen even scarier to face. So if you're losing to the Yankees, the odds of you coming back at the end of the game is a lot slimmer now with Chapman being the closer. Um, Next one on the list, Todd Frazier got traded to the Chicago White Sox from the Cincinnati Reds. So the Reds have been doing a lot of trades. I don't know. I'm assuming they're doing a rebuild, as they like to say, because nobody likes to say they're just trying to get rid of players and building for the future. So they just like to say they're rebuilding. Um, that was it's a three-team trade that happened with Frazier. Now he's been with Cincinnati his whole career as well. Right-handed hitter, third base, the hot corner for the White Sox now. He had a 255 batting average, which is a lot lower than you would like from him, but had 35 home runs and 89 RBIs. I don't think his RBIs weren't so high because the Reds didn't have such a great offensive year. But his big thing is he made it to the All-Star game as a Reds, and it was in Cincinnati. So he was a hometown hero, won the home run derby as a hometown hero. So these last 2 years, Frazier has proven to be a powerhouse, though. He's had over 20 home runs the past 2 years. So taking his power to the White Sox, we'll see if he can still, Cincinnati's also one of those ballparks that's a lot easier to hit home runs than I would say. And so we'll see if he can still put up the power numbers with the White Sox there. But he's definitely going to have to give his average up from what last year was to be effective there. If he can't get his average up, I think his numbers are going to start going down, and it's not going to be such a great trade for the White Sox. Um, so those are all my bigger ones that I saved for this week compared to last week. Another thing I saved for you guys is the team that I think made the most moves to try to have the most impact during this offseason. The team that did that, not just because I'm a Diamondbacks fan, but just because of what has happened, is the Diamondbacks. The Arizona Diamondbacks have proven that they are going out there to get the players they need to be successful this season, as they are trying to make themselves the best in the West, which they haven't been able to do in a while, as the Dodgers and the Giants have proven to be the better two teams in the West over these last couple of years. The reason why I think Diamondbacks are the team that have made the biggest push is the ones we've already talked about already. Greinke. They already signed Greinke. Tyler Clippard. Um, they still have Paul Goldschmidt there. They avoided arbitration with AJ Pollock, like I talked about last week as well. Another reason why Shelby Miller trade. He came from Atlanta with Gabe Spire, I think is how you say it. For Ender Inciarte and Dansby Swanson. Now, you did get a good pitcher as the Diamondbacks, but most fans looked at this and they were probably a little upset about it because Ender Inciarte had one of the other players that had a breakout year. Also was Ender. He had a breakout year. He got on base. He was that pesky leadoff hitter that the Diamondbacks needed. Now he's gone. So now you're wondering who's going to be that pesky leadoff hitter, which I'll lead into in a second. But with him gone, Yasmani Tomas now has to prove why he got signed all the money he did, since he will be the main man for what Ender was doing. And also, Dansby Swanson was the number one overall pick that just happened in the last Major League Draft. So not only did you give up your best leadoff hitter, but you also gave up your number one overall pick. But you did get another piece to that starting rotation, which was the biggest reason why the Diamondbacks weren't so successful last year, because of their pitching. So we'll see how it plays out. I think it's going to be a good help for the rotation, but but at that point when the trade happened, I thought it was going to be a bad for the offense, because you don't have a leadoff pesky hitter like Ender Inciarte was. Um, Now you did pick it up though. I think when they made the Gene Segura trade, they got him from Milwaukee with Tyler Wagner, who is currently he's going to be probably a minor league pitcher, but he is going to be competing at spring training. So if he has a great spring training, he might be in the majors probably in the bullpen, I would say, with the rotation that the Diamondbacks look like they already have. But the trade was for Chase Anderson and Aaron Hill and Isan Diaz. So the two bigger names are Chase Anderson, Aaron Hill, obviously. So the Brewers wanted people for their 2016 season to be in the major league right away, except for probably Diaz. But Chase Anderson, this kind of shocked me that it was Chase Anderson there giving up. Um, Aaron Hill didn't shock me too much though because he was an older veteran that hadn't been producing as much as the Diamondbacks wanted, and Gene Segura is a lot younger, and he has proven that he can be successful as he was an All-Star in 2013. And last year had a 257 average with 6 home runs and 50 RBIs. He's not a power hitter. He's going to be that pesky leadoff hitter that they need, hopefully. Um, which is something they need because you don't want AJ Pollock being a leadoff hitter. You want him maybe two, and then Goldschmidt three, and then Peralta probably four. But Segura didn't have the best season last year, but he was an All-Star in 13, like I said. He's that middle infielder they also needed production from as well. Chris Owings and um, Nick Ahmed both didn't have great offensive seasons. They couldn't even have consistent seasons, I would say, as they both were struggling to find themselves. And even Jake Lamb didn't put up good numbers, I would say. So your shortstop, second base, and third baseman all didn't put up numbers that you needed, and they still had one of the top offensives in the major leagues. So hopefully Segura can even make the offense that much better and make up for the hole you're missing now with Endo and Ciarte being gone. But Chase Anderson shocked me because he was our best starter in the first half of the season until he got hurt and struggled when he came back from injury, but still showed that he had great stuff. And I think that's why the Brewers wanted him, obviously, because of that performance he had. And getting Shelby Miller and Zach Greinke, I think that's another reason why the Diamondbacks were so okay with giving him up. So I think the Diamondbacks will benefit from all the trades they've done, but you also have to be able to make up for the stuff you are now losing for the trades. If the Diamondbacks aren't able to make up for what they lost in these trades, then these trades aren't going to be so successful, and people are going to start to think that you wasted money or you wasted players for certain other players. Other than that, I think it's pretty much all the off seasons signings and deals that I can cover without talking to you guys for 24/7 until I cover everybody. But I would like to say if I didn't cover someone you were thinking of, I apologize for that. But like I said, there were so many deals this off season that it was it was just crazy to think if I had covered people that got minor league deals or some of the not as well known names that signed deals in the major leagues as well. But I would like to thank you guys for tuning in and listening to my podcast of the ins and the outs of the off season, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.